A week before the apartment sale, Abigail's father-in-law showed up unannounced at her door. He was holding a hammer, his gray eyes sharp with a determination she'd never seen before. Without any greeting, he pointed toward the hallway and said in a voice that left no room for argument, "While your husband's away, break the bathroom tile." At first, Abigail thought she'd misheard him. Break the tile? Behind the toilet? The renovation was barely 6 months old. The bathroom was her pride, the glossy beige tiles Kevin had insisted on, the chrome fixtures, the fresh acrylic tub. Why would this quiet, reserved old man want her to destroy it? But the way he looked at her, like a man carrying the weight of a dark secret, made her chest tighten. What could possibly be behind that wall? Only days earlier, Abigail's life had seemed so ordinary. Kevin, her husband of 15 years, had left on a business trip to a neighboring state. He claimed it was an important deal that could fix their financial troubles, the kind of trip that would give them both a new start. Abigail stayed home in their 3-bedroom apartment, a place she had poured her heart into. Every corner reflected her choices: the warm laminate flooring, the soft textured wallpaper, the light fixtures she'd spent weeks selecting. Even Kevin, who had once dismissed her decorating as women's nonsense, now bragged to guests that the design had been his idea. Abigail never corrected him. All that mattered was that they both loved the space. Selling the apartment was bittersweet. They had decided to move outside the city, invest in a house, and begin what Kevin called their next chapter. Abigail had clung to that dream until Nick, her father-in-law, showed up on her doorstep with that hammer. Nick wasn't the type of man to make casual jokes. Ever since his wife's death, he'd kept to himself, living quietly in his small apartment across town. He rarely visited, never interfered in their marriage, and always seemed a little distant. So, when he stepped into Abigail's spotless living room and told her to smash her brand-new bathroom wall, she felt something icy crawl up her spine. "Why would I do that?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Because your husband is lying to you," Nick replied. His tone was firm, almost harsh. "The truth is hidden there. If you don't see it now, you may lose everything." He handed her the hammer. Abigail stared at the tool in disbelief. She imagined Kevin's reaction if he came home to find the bathroom ruined. He'd be furious, humiliated. He called that bathroom their little Versailles. Smashing it apart felt unthinkable, but Nick's eyes, there was no madness in them, just sorrow and an edge of desperation. That night, Abigail lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The words echoed in her mind. The truth is hidden there. What truth could be buried inside a bathroom wall? And why did Nick sound so certain? The apartment, once her safe place, no longer felt like home. It felt like a stage with secrets built into its walls, and somewhere out there, Kevin was supposedly working hard to secure their future. But what if Nick was right? What if Kevin's trip, the sale, the new house, what if it was all part of a lie? Hi everyone, drop a comment and tell me where you're from. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Enjoy listening. The hammer still sat on the kitchen counter, and with each passing hour, Abigail felt its weight pressing on her. By morning, she knew she would have to choose to ignore her father-in-law's warning or break the tile and uncover a truth that could shatter her entire life. The hammer waited on the counter all night, a silent intruder in Abigail's spotless kitchen. By morning, she couldn't look at it without feeling her stomach twist. She told herself it was ridiculous smashing a brand new bathroom wall because of a cryptic warning. But the memory of Nick's eyes, heavy with sorrow and certainty, kept replaying in her mind. He wasn't a man prone to theatrics. He had nothing to gain by lying. Finally, just after noon, Abigail picked it up. The weight felt unnatural in her hands, like she was holding someone else's fate. The bathroom gleamed under the bright light. She stood frozen, staring at the smooth beige tiles, every line perfectly aligned. She remembered the arguments with the workers, the pride she'd felt when it was done, and now, here she was, about to destroy it. Her voice shook as she whispered almost to herself, "This is insane." Behind her, Nick stood silently in the doorway, his expression hard but not cruel. He didn't push her, but his presence was pressure enough. "Do it, Abigail," he said softly. "Better you find the truth now than have it crush you later." Her throat tightened. She raised the hammer. The first strike echoed like gunfire through the apartment. Shards of glossy ceramic flew across the floor. Abigail flinched at the sound, heart racing, but something in her chest, fear, denial, cracked right along with the tile. She struck again, and again. The hammer bit into the wall until the perfect surface was ruined, jagged and broken. Sweat dampened her forehead, her hands shook. Finally, she hit a hollow spot, a different sound. Nick stepped closer, his face lined with grave. "Right there. That's it." Abigail pried away the last fragments with the claw of the hammer, her breath coming fast. Beneath the tile was cement, then a brick that didn't belong, edges too clean, too fresh. Her pulse thundered in her ears. "Take it out," Nick urged. She wedged the hammer's claw against the brick and pulled. It resisted at first, then gave way with a harsh scrape. Behind it, darkness yawned. A narrow void cut into the wall. Abigail leaned closer, her breath fogging the dust. And there it was, a black, zippered pouch wedged deep inside, the kind used for storing documents. She reached it in, her fingers brushing the cold fabric, and pulled it free. It was heavier than she expected. Her knees buckled. She staggered to the sink and set it down, staring at the thing like it might bite her. "Open it," Nick said. Abigail's trembling hands fumbled with the zipper. It caught halfway, then slid open with a hiss. Inside lay stacks of $100 bills, bound with rubber bands. More money than she had ever seen in one place. Her breath hitched, but it wasn't the money that made her collapse against the counter. Beneath the cash, folded neatly, were documents. She saw her own name, her signature. Her eyes widened as the truth slammed into her. A forged power of attorney, granting Kevin full control over the apartment sale. Her half, her future. Her chest tightened. The walls seemed to tilt around her. Nick's jaw clenched. "I told you, he's not who you think he is." Abigail shook her head violently, as if that could erase the words on the page. "No, this isn't possible. He wouldn't—" But before she could finish, her gaze caught something else in the pouch. A smaller envelope, thin, plain. She tore it open. 2 airline tickets slipped out, one with Kevin's name, the other with a single initial, K. Henderson. Her breath stopped being cold. Kevin and Kate, her younger sister. Abigail's grip loosened. The papers fluttered to the floor, and that's when she noticed something glinting at the bottom of the pouch. A delicate silver locket she hadn't seen in years, the very one she'd given up to Kate in a bitter family argument long ago. Her knees gave out. She slid to the bathroom floor, surrounded by broken tile and scattered paper. The locket gleamed beside the damning tickets. Kevin wasn't just planning to betray her. He was running away with her sister. Abigail's world collapsed. And yet, she didn't even know the darkest truth hidden in that pouch. Not yet. Abigail sat on the cold bathroom floor, the locket pressed against her palm, her mind spinning. Betrayal didn't even cover it. Her husband had forged her signature, emptied their future, and planned to vanish with her sister. Nick crouched beside her, his weathered hand on her shoulder. "You can't confront them yet," he warned. "Not until you know how deep this goes." But Abigail barely heard him. The locket burned in her hand like a brand. She could see Kate's face, smug, triumphant, laughing behind her back. And Kevin, calm, calculated, certain he'd already won. She couldn't just sit and wait. By evening, Abigail had decided. Wednesdays meant family dinner at her mother's house. Kate would be there. Always. If Kevin was back in town, he might show up too. She needed to see them, to look them in the eye, to confirm what she already knew. Nick tried to stop her, but Abigail was relentless. "I won't accuse them," she said. "I'll just watch. Listen." Her mother's house smelled of apple pie when she arrived, the scent that usually wrapped her in comfort. Tonight it felt staged, like a cruel trick. "Abigail!" her mother beamed, flour still dusting her hands. "I didn't think you'd come." At the table, Kate lounged with a glass of wine, flipping through a glossy magazine. She looked up, her lips curving into a mocking smile. "Well, look who decided to crawl out from hiding." Abigail forced a smile, sitting down opposite her. "Long day. Thought I'd stop by." They made small talk over dinner, neighbors, TV shows, and the weather. Abigail barely tasted the food. Every word out of Kate's mouth dripped with false sweetness. Her mother, Eleanor, fussed happily, oblivious to the poison simmering at the table. And then Abigail slid her hand into her purse. She pulled out the silver locket, holding it up casually, as if it were nothing more than a forgotten trinket. "Funny thing," she said lightly, "I found this today." Kate froze. Her fork clattered onto the plate. For a split second, her mask slipped. Raw fear flashed in her eyes before she quickly hid it with a sneer. "You stole that from me," Kate hissed, voice sharp. "I knew you were jealous. You've always been jealous." "Jealous?" Abigail's voice was calm, almost too calm. "That's interesting." Their mother gasped, looking between them. "Girls, what is this? Abigail, put that away. Don't start trouble." But it was already too late. Kate's panic had flared into fury, her voice rising, trembling. "You're paranoid, obsessed. No wonder Kevin doesn't tell you anything." At that name, the air shifted. Abigail's heart stopped, because at that exact moment, the front door opened. Kevin walked in, clean-shaven, smiling, holding a cake like the perfect son-in-law. He paused for only a second, his eyes scanning the scene. Kate flushed and trembled, Eleanor's face pinched with worry, Abigail sitting rigid with the locket glinting in her hand. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. He crossed the room and went straight to Kate, slipping an arm protectively around her shoulders. And with a calm smile, he looked at Eleanor. "Don't worry, Mom. Abigail's just been under a lot of stress." Then he turned his eyes on his wife, cold, ruthless, daring her to speak. In that moment, Abigail realized something chilling. They weren't hiding anymore. They were rewriting reality. And if she said a single word, she'd be painted as the unstable liar, outnumbered in her own family. Abigail didn't argue. She didn't plead. She simply stood from the dinner table, placed the locket back in her purse, and walked out of her mother's house. No one stopped her. Not Kate, still clinging to Kevin's arm. Not Eleanor, who only murmured, "She needs help," under her breath. Out in the night air, Abigail finally let herself breathe. Each step down the dark street was heavy, like she was walking through mud. The betrayal wasn't whispered anymore. It had been performed openly in front of her mother, sealed with Kevin's arm around her sister. They had taken her to truth and twisted it into madness. By the time she reached her car, her hands were shaking so badly she could barely fit the key in the ignition. She didn't go home right away. She drove aimlessly, city lights blurring past the windshield. Every mile was filled with Kevin's smirk, Kate's triumph, and her mother's blind defense. When she finally pulled into her apartment building, the clock on the dashboard read, "Past midnight." The front door was unlocked. Abigail froze. Slowly, she pushed it open, her heart pounding. The only light came from the bedroom. She stepped inside quietly, like an intruder in her own home. Kevin was there. He stood at the foot of their bed, methodically folding clothes into a large suitcase. His movements were calm, efficient, like a man packing for vacation. He didn't flinch when she entered. "I thought you'd stay longer at your mother's," he said evenly, without looking at her. "Didn't want to waste time." Her throat was dry. "So, it's true." Kevin glanced up, his lips curling into a cold smirk. "You finally caught on." He snapped the suitcase shut with a sharp click, then leaned against the dresser, arms crossed. "The apartment sale closes tomorrow. With the power of attorney, I'll sign everything. You won't see a cent." Abigail's knees weakened, but she stayed standing. "You forged my signature. You stole everything we built. And Kate—" Her voice cracked. "You planned it all with her." He shrugged. Why not? She's smarter than you think. Smarter than you, that's for sure. You lived in a fantasy, Abigail. You thought loyalty meant something. But the world belongs to the bald, to the ones who take what they want. Her chest heaved, fury fighting despair. You can't erase me like this. I'll go to the bank tomorrow, take what's left in our joint account. Kevin's laugh was sharp, cruel. He pulled a folded paper from the dresser drawer and tossed it onto the bed. Go ahead. Try. Abigail picked it up, her hands trembling. Her eyes scanned the numbers. Transaction after transaction, large withdrawals, tens of thousands at a time. The final line hit like a blade. Balance, $0.00. She staggered back, staring at him. You took it all. Months ago, Kevin said casually. Every dollar. You have nothing left. Her breath came in shallow gasps. 15 years of savings. Gone. Stolen. Kevin lifted the suitcase, walking past her toward the door. He stopped only long enough to look her in the eye. His voice was low, deadly calm. You're finished, Abigail. Tomorrow I will get to the apartment. Then Kate and I are gone. And you'll stay here with your paranoia, your stories no one believes, alone. The front door slammed behind him. Abigail stood frozen in the silence of the empty apartment, the bank statement shaking in her hands. The numbers blurred through her tears. 0. Nothing. But then, her eyes drifted to the small safe hidden behind the painting in her office. Inside were the original purchase documents, the contract her parents had signed when gifting her the apartment years ago. Her father had insisted on protection. She remembered vague legal phrases, clauses about personal consent. Could it be enough? Her chest tightened with a flicker of hope. Fragile, dangerous, but real. She rushed to the office, pulling the painting aside, punching in the code. The safe clicked open, and just as she reached for the contract, the sound of a key turned in the front door. Kevin was back. The safe door was still open when Abigail heard the front lock turn. Her pulse spiked. She shoved the contract folder under her arm and stepped back just as Kevin stormed into the apartment. His hair was disheveled, eyes wild. He froze when he saw the safe open. His gaze dropped to the papers in her hands. You don't know what you're holding, he snapped, striding toward her. Abigail's grip tightened. I know enough. This apartment was a gift from my parents. The contract says no sales can happen without my signature, not even with your forged paper. Kevin's jaw clenched. For the first time, his confidence faltered. That won't save you, he growled. The buyer doesn't care. He just wants the deal done. And when Raven doesn't get what he's promised? Kevin's voice dropped, darker now. People get hurt. The name hit Abigail like ice. She had heard whispers from Nick the night before. Raven wasn't just a buyer. He was a man who collected debts in ways the police couldn't stop. Abigail steadied her voice. Then you dragged Kate into something even worse than betrayal. You made her collateral. Kevin's eyes flashed. For a heartbeat, the mask slipped. He looked less like a husband and more like a cornered animal. Stay out of this. Sign the papers tomorrow and maybe Raven leaves us both alone. Us? Abigail spat. There is no us. Before Kevin could lunge, the knock on the door came. Hard, deliberate. Nick's voice cut through. Abigail, open up! She rushed past Kevin and unlatched the door. Nick stepped in, his lined face stern, his presence a wall of calm against Kevin's storm. Kevin sneered. So, the old man's pulling your strings now. Nick didn't flinch. He looked at his son in the eye, voice steady. I was once you, Kevin. Greedy, arrogant, ready to throw everything away for selfishness, but I didn't destroy my family to do it. You have. Kevin's lip curled. Spare me the lecture. Nick ignored him. He turned to Abigail. We take the contract to the notary first thing in the morning. Without your signature, the deal dies. He can scream all he wants. Legally, he's finished. Kevin's face twisted. He slammed his fist against the wall, veins standing out in his neck. You think Raven cares about contracts? You think a piece of paper will stop him? When he finds out the sale fell through, he'll come for me and for you. Abigail stepped forward, her voice sharp and clear. "Then let him come for you, Kevin. You made this mess. You forged my name. You emptied our savings. You sold out your own wife and my sister. Raven isn't my problem. He's yours." For a moment, silence hung heavily. Kevin's chest heaved, his eyes darting between them. Then he grabbed his suitcase, muttered something under his breath, and shoved past them into the hallway. The door slammed shut. Abigail's hands shook, but she clutched the contract like a lifeline. Nick rested his hand on her shoulder. "It's over," he said quietly. She wasn't sure if she believed it, but when the sun rose the next morning and she walked into the notary's office with the original contract in hand, Kevin had nowhere to be found. She finally exhaled. The sale was halted. The forgery was exposed. And though Raven's shadow still lingered, it no longer hung over her head. For the first time in weeks, Abigail felt something like freedom. She slipped the silver locket around her neck. It rested against her skin, cool but steady, a reminder of betrayal and survival. As she stepped out into the bright morning, she knew the truth. Kevin and Kate had taken everything they could from her, money, trust, family, but they hadn't taken her, and that, she realized, was enough to start again.